We are live.
Three, two, one.
Hey, welcome back. This is episode 2 of the Real Vets podcast. With me is Tony Dayton with Edge Home Finance. Hey, Tony, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing this evening?
Doing great. And I'm Tyson with Realty One Group Pacifica here in Southwest Washington. We are located just outside of JBLM, Joint Base Lewis McChord, here in Washington State, pretty much in Tacoma area. But we serve several different installations, including Bremerton Naval Shipyard. What's another one? Can't remember. What's that one up north? Whidbey Island?
Oh, the Coast Guard. You got the Coast Guard base out there. You've got the Air Force base over in Eastern Washington.
Fairchild. Yep. I don't go that far, but I have a network of agents if you need one to go out there. That's many hours away from me.
Right.
But you can do loans there. You can do all that remotely. Once again, before we get too started, please like, subscribe. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, Facebook. So wherever the like button is, I don't know, it's all in different spots. Please like it, satisfy the algorithm, help us get out to more veterans to get this very important info out to them to change their lives. Topic for today, VA construction loans, how they differ from regular construction loans, and a few of the ins and outs.
The proper term, right? The VA one-time close construction loan. Basically, to land home packages, as we call them. The big myth, or the big thing that's said all the time: can you buy land with your VA loan? I think it's the biggest question you get. Can you do it?
I get it almost every day, and the answer is the same. You can't buy just land and hold on to it with a VA loan.
Yeah.
You have to be using the VA program that where you're buying it and building the house all in one go, and it's, as you said, one-time close.
Yeah, one-time close. Everything closes up front. You're not doing a second escrow. You're not requalifying. That thing is when you close, you get closed up front, right? And then they modify, at the end when you go start making your payments. So,
and that's another big thing that's different is when payments start. That's one of the biggest differences between the VA construction loan, one-time construction.
I think the best way to start this is you got the VA one-time close construction loan. You're like, all right, I want a land home package. I'm ready to build a home on a piece of land, whether I own it or I want to buy it. Right. And so the highlights of the program are it closes up front. There's only one closing. Your interest rate's locked up front, which can be good or bad, depending on where the market heads, right? No interest payments during construction, right? So there's an interest reserve built up, which means you don't make a payment till the loan modifies after your 4 to 12-month build time.
Right.
So that's kind of the highlights of it. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you can wrap if you're out in the country, you can wrap getting utilities installed into that loan, right? They can become a part of that amount, like getting a well drilled, getting septic put in. That can all be rolled into the loan, right?
Yeah, everything. Yeah, I mean, to get into the nitty gritty, like you get started. So you walk in, talk to a loan officer, and they're like, yeah, I've done construction loans. Probably important that they've done construction loans. They're not just testing it out on you. It actually says in the VA guideline for experienced loan originators. Now, I didn't read that when I started them 5 years ago, but I dove right into them. It does say it's in the guidelines. It says for experienced and all that stuff, But so, yeah, I've got 5 years of experience in working these things with a 1-year break during COVID because they shut the program down.
Right.
And so you have basically like you can go zero down. You can include everything in one. And so it's really just it's a way to get what I think the VA loan was originally kind of built around, and that's giving soldiers or generals, if you think about it, all the way to like Japanese culture or whatever that was. You remember the old video game where you do the samurai swords and stuff, and if you were a general, like they'd give you a piece of land, right, and then you could build your homestead and all that stuff on it. It's the same. I think it's the same concept, right?
Right. It's setting them up when they leave the military to, well, setting them and their families up to have a place to live and feel very secure in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what types of homes can you use, can you build with this construction loan?
And this is going to vary based on lender, right? And it's going to vary based on your area. So the one thing is I mean, the VA allows you to build a lot of different types, or the VA will fund or insure a lot of different types of homes.
Right.
Now, as a lender, what do I got to look out for? You know, barn dominiums, huge hot topic. Everybody's it was almost a huge fad for a minute. I know that. They wanted to.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
Right, you're a fan, right? You love them. A horse running through your living room. I guess I don't know.
My wife's not a fan of them, but I am. So, but that's why we're building her house, not mine.
But the thing is, like in our area, where are the condominiums that you can compare to? Because remember, how do you get your value?
Yeah, right? you got to have some good comparison. That was one of the biggest issues was appraisals on them. How do appraisers don't know how to value them correctly because there's not enough of comparables.
No comparables. I mean, if you got no comparables, you can't build that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I even I sat in someone who founded one of these programs, I guess you'd say, for a lender, and I sat in with him, and we asked him all the questions. What about tiny homes? What about different types, 3D homes, all that stuff? And he said, right now, no. I mean, you don't have nothing to compare it to. But if a market is created by the people with that, then I could see the financing happen. Of course, above 400 square feet. But
I've also heard the terminology be very important. Like you want to call it call it a barn dominium, call it a steel-sided house,
right? Or custom construction, right? I mean, that's At the end of the day, it's just custom construction. That's kind of what I've seen for plans and stuff like that. Usually it's just custom construction with a big garage.
And you can do manufactured homes and is the term modular homes?
Yep, manufactured and modular.
Which are different. But and does that change the loan at all? Does the interest rate change or anything when you're doing a manufactured versus a stick-built home?
Well, yeah, you're gonna have. Oh.
It's all right.
I don't have like a private studio, so you'll be able to cut this out. Anyway.
Yes, I can. And so here, ready, set, go.
Yeah, so like with the we're talking about manufactured home, right? So and the interest rates. So basically what happens is typically with the manufactured home, you have an adjuster for it being a manufactured home, whether it's a quarter point, half point, 1 point adjuster, depending on the lender. So it kind of built in as a loan level pricing adjustment, right? And so you can definitely see that from stick built to manufactured. But I mean, just in general, it's a construction loan, so there's a higher risk. Lenders are going to want, to basically be paid for their risk, right? So
yeah,
definitely going to be a little bit higher.
Okay. Okay. And according to the VA, like if you do a modular home, is that still considered a stick built, or is that its own category?
It's considered a stick built.
It's considered a stick built. Okay. Cool. And can you do triple wides, double wides, single wides?
Anything above a double wide.
Okay. I've seen these 2-story manufactured homes. Have you seen these?
I've seen one.
I've seen videos of them, and I'm like, that don't look like a manufactured home, but that actually looks pretty cool. They're really cool looking. Like the crane in the top part and set it down on it and everything. I'm just like, I wonder how that factors into a VA loan.
Well, I mean, as long as HUD approved, I don't see why they wouldn't do it.
Right? I mean, it'd be a lot harder to move a 2-story manufactured home.
Right? Guarantees.
And the VA will still loan on a moved manufactured home.
Yeah, VA will too, right? I know.
Yeah.
It brings up a good point. Used manufactured homes with the VA one-time close, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it. But
yes,
you can buy a used manufactured home with a VA loan if it was moved, right? We were just saying that. Moved twice.
You and me have closed at least 2 of them.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because I can't think of another loan type that will deal with a moved one unless it's a portfolio loan of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. I had one close, and you were the loan officer in that was rough. I didn't know if it was going to pass the VA appraisal, and it did. I don't want to use names or places or anything, but I think you know which one I'm talking about. It had red trim. But wow, that sucker closed, and it just blew my mind because I've seen way nicer stuff with stuff called out by the VA appraiser where we're like, really? Come on.
Well, we got an episode coming up with the VA appraiser, so I'll be excited.
Yeah, we're going to have an actual appraiser on the show, and we get to grill him on things that bother us about the VA appraisals. No, we're going to be nice to him. We're going to be nice to him, I think. I don't know. He might feel a little bullied by the end of it, but yeah. A couple things here. I was actually on the phone today with a brand new client, and every VA client I get on the phone, every veteran, I go through the list of all these different loan types you can do. The regular loan, being able to have 2 VA loans at once, the construction loans, the rehab loans. And we stopped on the construction loan because that got really excited. And he asked some questions, and I was like, this is awesome because we're about to talk about this. So, and I'm a good example on this too. Bought my home in 2019 with my VA loan. Then got my name on the title on a piece of property that I want to build on with the VA loan. And so I want it to be my second VA loan while still maintaining my first. I'm going to rent the house out, minimum of a year, take that contract to you. And that wipes it off of our debt to income sheet. And then building with your second VA loan. So we're going to be moving out to the property in a temporary residence on the property, not a permanent residence. And what are some of the things that we need to look out for if we're going to be doing that with our second loan?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is first is entitlement, what you need for a down payment, and how are you going to manage that if you don't refinance the current home, because you don't want to refinance that thing. It's got a great rate. It's, the payment's low. Like, why would you want to
3 something? Like,
like, you don't want to refinance that. So it's like, okay, so how do I qualify with both? And that's where it kind of gets special, right? So being you did the owner carry finance, you got your name on the title, your kind of rules for depending on which lender kind of will change, right? So after basically, I think a good way to look at it is once you hit 12 months of payments on that property, right now you're going to get the full value of the property. Before that, we're going to use the purchase price of the property and subtract to your down payment, right? So if you put $20,000 down on a $100,000 piece of land, your home is going to be purchase price of whatever that is, 100,000 minus that 20. So if it's $400,000 for the build and everything else, and 100,000 for the land, you're now at $480,000 for a loan with a $500,000 purchase price.
So they consider the down payment you made on the land towards the home build, because at the end of the day, they're going to rope that land into the complete loan.
That is how I will set it up. Right now, that doesn't mean you can't. You're like just automatically get it, right? Like it could you could end up building into your equity that makes sense. Upgrading into your equity, right? So say your granite countertops, you want a glass staircase, all that stuff. Next thing you know, your land's worth 400 or 100. You're not going to get that extra 30,000. You know what I mean? If your loan amount's 490, right? So,
Okay. Let's think of another question here. I was writing some of them down. And just all right. So, one of the other questions that I've had was, obviously whoever's going to build the home has to be a VA approved contractor. And where do you find a list of these VA approved contractors? How do you go about making sure you pick the right one? And if you want a certain one and they're not on the VA list, how easy is it to get on that list?
You ever seen like when Santa Claus in the movies takes the list and drop it down and just spins out and there's just millions of names?
Yeah,
you can find that on the VA website.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, but I mean, honestly, probably because the VA approval is very, very simple, right? Getting a VA ID is very simple. As long as you're a legit company, you got a letterhead, you're an equal opportunity employer, you submit those 3 items in about 48 hours, you have a VA ID or approved contract.
That's it. Then you can do the job.
And you got to get approved with the lender too.
The contractor has to get approved with the lender.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
what does that entail?
It depends on the lender. Now, some might want everything that you want from when you're getting a mortgage. They want bank statements, tax returns, credit pulls, make sure you're a squared away company, right? They could want that.
Okay.
I think
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so it can vary, depending on how deep they go. Sometimes some don't want that. Some just want to know how many building permits you've pulled and completed, right? They all want that. They all want the experience, right? I haven't seen one.
They probably check the Better Business Bureau for complaints too.
I've never heard or seen that, but yeah, it's they're basically just looking that you're financially sound. I've had to submit tax returns. I've had to submit other things as well with just to show the history, right? So typically, I think 3 years. If you're a 3-year builder and done at least 4 or 5 builds a year, you shouldn't have a problem getting approved. I mean, I know like the last company I was with, they're like, 2 years, I think it was, with 1 build a year, and they'd approve you. So I mean, it varies on the lenders on who they will approve, right? So, and it varies on what they need. I mean, I had one lender where you don't even get approved with the lender; you get approved with every project. So, like, say you're a preferred builder of mine. Well, every time we go do one of these construction loans, we have to submit for builder approval. So now, ideally, I'd have those documents on X by the time we get to the second and third one, and be real simple. But
right.
But yeah, so that's kind of getting approved by the builder. I'd say more often than not, when it comes to these, I am not on the manufactured home side, but on the new construction side. These builders are all kind of unfamiliar with the program, so we're bringing them in, we're explaining how it's going to work, we're telling them, hey, the lender's kind of holding the bag here. The big thing I really need from you is I need to know all the costs for the bill. Right? I need the cost, I need the plans, I need the site prep work, right? The cost for that as well. Mm-hmm. So I can break all that in and order an appraisal on it. Right? I'm ordering an appraisal on a piece of land and a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. And they're going to do what's called a future appraisal to give us a value. Right? And it's going to be subject to, because it's subject to building a home, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so I mean, that's going to be kind of the gist of it. I mean, it's a great program. It's not for the faint of heart. You know, I don't say
Building a home in general is not for the faint of heart. It takes time. It's stressful. There's no instant gratification. You gotta sit there and wait for it to get
no,
done, and things come up. It's
you're right.
not a perfect process. You're gonna have unexpected things.
Yeah, you know, sewers that got to be extended, or pocket gophers that are protected living on your going on the property. I mean,
Or a well, costing more than you thought it was going to
yeah,
because they had to drill deeper than you expected.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I'm getting ready to do right now, which brings up another question, actually. We'll use mine as an example again. Bought this piece of land, names on the title. We're doing as much as we can to site prep it before getting the loan because we want to do stuff ourselves. It's less that's ripped into the loan. So we're going to have electric put on, cash ourselves. We've already got the well scheduled to be drilled. Doing the perk holes, figuring out where the septic's going to go. Since we're doing all that stuff ourselves, cash, and obviously, I guess it probably just factors into the value of the property. Having all that stuff already done, is that all it does? It just affects the value of the property.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to affect your value, especially once you hit past that 12 months,
Right.
of payments mark. Then when they assess your land, it's going to be assessed for more.
So if I take the amount of my down payment, but then also I have the invoices for all this, like having the well put in, electric and everything, does that factor in at all to the down payment?
I mean, I suppose you could. So the short answer is yes,
Okay.
but it's only because the appraiser gave us a higher value because you developed the property.
Gotcha.
Not because you sent in invoices. Now, I mean, obviously you could send your invoices into the appraiser so they know, hey, this was done to the property when they go to appraise it.
Gotcha.
Anything you could point out for them so they don't have to look for it would probably be best because you don't want them to miss it. Like, oh yeah, septic plan's already approved and designed. It's actually in the ground right there. But it could all be covered, right? A septic, just a little lid. They ain't going to know it's there,
Yeah.
I guess they look up.
Yeah, we plan on taking pictures as things are getting done.
Yeah,
I got a drone. We're gonna.
I mean, ideally, they could look on county and everything else to see what's been approved out there and all that stuff. Typically, right? And I would think in most counties, some counties, some are technologically caught up, I'd say as well. But so yeah, so you could, but anything you can point out to make their life easier, I would definitely do, right? So.
Definitely.
So, Henry, one last thing, I think, just to kind of give the folks an idea of what's going to happen, right? We kind of already talked about, hey, you go in, we didn't say get pre-approved. You get pre-approved for construction. We should talk about that first, actually.
What's the difference between a pre-approval for that and a regular zero down VA loan on a house that's already built?
I think the biggest thing I see is that they'll get a pre-approval letter and they'll go out and put an offer on a piece of land. Bad idea. Do not take your pre-approval letter and go out and put an offer on a piece of land and then go talk to the builder. That's the wrong order. Order one, get pre-approved, go talk to your builder, figure out who is going to, if it's going to be you or who is going to diagnose the land and give you your feasibility studies, right?
Yeah.
That's the order. Do
an
that.
Offer with a feasibility study.
Well, I mean, because you never know, the build price might take you way out of it, right? So we talked. So now we've covered the pre-approval. Bam, get pre-approved. Go see the builder. Too easy. And then you talked about the processing. We're going to order an appraisal, do the regular underwriting thing, income, assets, collect documents, order. I say you save yourself money by getting the permit up front. So you can close without permits. Just remember, if you close without permits, that permit timeline's got to be included into that interest reserve. And so, because now you're extending your build time from 5 months to 8 months, or 8 months to 9 or 11 months, 12 months possibly, depending on where you're building at. Can't go over 12.
Before your payments start, right?
Yeah. And so if you think about it, think about your interest only payment going from 5 months to 9 months, right? Because maybe your county's 3-4 months to get the permits back for the health department or whatever for the septic,
Mm-hmm.
So now you're at a 9-month interest reserve. You probably just added 8, 9, 10 grand to your interest reserve. That's to your pre-approval amount. That's to your going towards the value that we talked about, right? So,
Gotcha.
so you have that piece that you've got to think about. So, having a little cash flow isn't a bad thing when you're building, right? It's a good idea. Save some money before you get into it for all the unexpected stuff.
Even though it's a 0 down loan, don't go into any home buying loan without cash.
At least a little bit, right?
Yeah, you need enough for a home inspection. You need enough for some closing costs. It doesn't hurt to have a nice little savings for some unexpected stuff. You're going to have less of a hassle.
If you're building a new site-built home, you probably want to have a good 25 grand in the bank. You don't have to. We could do it without that. Obviously, I can do it without closing the permits, all that stuff. But having about 25 grand seems to be the safest, especially if you're going to buy the
unexpected things.
Yeah, especially if you're going to buy the land first. There might be something like, I don't want to include that in. I'll just do it, So, manufactured home, I probably don't need as much, but I definitely would say, $2,500 at least, maybe 3,000 somewhere in there to cover permits and any other things that, you got to get done. Like the perk test, that's like an inspection, a perk test that you mentioned earlier, getting that done. And so yeah. And then the last kind of thing we're going to do is I'm going to take all the line items, right? And I'm going to go through and give them all a value, right? I get it from the builder, but I'm going to give them all a value. And that is going to be kind of divided out depending on if it's 5 draws, 8 draws, whatever your draw schedules are. A lot of times,
what is a draw? Just to clarify.
Basically, builders get typically when they're building homes and they're taking a loan out, they're going to get draws from the bank on per work completed, right? So they come in, they lay the foundation, they put the framing up. They're like, "Hey, give me 50 grand." Boom. They take the pictures. Inspector comes out, we wire off the money. We handle it all on the back end, right? We have like an escrow account set up that's sending these guys, of that $500,000 loan, we sent them $50,000 for that first part, right? They go through, do the rough end, do all that stuff, get it all the way to, I don't know, say roofing and siding is on the house or whatever, right? And then they get all that done, and then they go, depending on the weather, when they paint it, right? But
yeah.
So they go through and they knock all of that out, and then they get paid for that, right? And so that's your draw schedule. Each draw has a fee. Each draw has an inspection fee. Each draw has hey, here's a fee for taking money, right? So wiring you the money cost the lender $100, cost you $500.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what comes with the territory, right? So you get through, you do your 5 draw process, you get to the end, you get a certificate of occupancy, then we modify the loan, right? And at the modification, it's just like closing on a regular home loan. So if we modify on January 19th, guess when your first payment is?
March 1st, April.
There we go. March 1st.
Yeah.
So be
ready.
So be ready. Then you start making your payments. You get a little reprieve after getting through the construction process, but I love the manufactured home deal. Just kind of, I'll finish with this. The manufactured homes right now, especially in Washington State, if we can find the right value of land right now, I'm seeing a lot of instant equity with these man homes being put up. Cheap to build. You can build a man home 160, land for 50. That's 210. Site prep 70 grand. That's 280. The loan cost 20 grand. You're at 300 grand. So if you can find a piece of land that's 50 grand, you could be where in Pierce and Thurston County, right? Can you buy a home for 300 grand?
You can't.
Right. And it's brand new.
Can't. And that's one of the awesome things about it is especially the manufactured home side, because some of the costs are more set, and it's it's usually a faster process too.
And think about investors right now. Investors are literally going out and putting up these man homes, and then people are coming in and buying them. It's happening. So it's the
all
value,
over the place.
Yeah.
And that brings up one other objection or question I got today was, well, don't manufactured homes depreciate, unlike stick built? And kind of the answer I've been getting on that is not like they used to.
It's not like they used to. I mean, long term wise, I think long term, 25 years, you're probably not going to see the same appreciation. But
yeah, of course, a manufactured home built today is much better built home than, say, the manufactured homes they built 30 years ago.
Yeah, they're crazy. Yeah, it's night and
build
day.
quality is gone up. These things are built to go down the road in pieces without falling apart. They're almost more structural than a stick built home.
I mean, I've lived in the single wide. I remember what those things used to be like.
Aluminum wiring and all.
Aluminum wire, bathroom floor rotting out, furnace dies on you. It gets super hot in the summer.
Not the same anymore.
No.
Not the same. No. So, but okay. Well, we just crested 31 minutes, and we try to keep these things around 30 minutes just to keep the listening time kind of decent for people. We don't want it to be too long-winded. So that is the end of episode 2. Get ready for episode 3, which should be out soon as well. Tony, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we will see you guys next time.
I like to do salute.